Am I the jerk for renegotiating a deal with my stepbrother? My wife and I have 2 young children, and we were looking for an apartment to rent at the start of the year, as our current apartment would not be renewed past the end of June. At the moment, it is really difficult to find an apartment in the city where we live. Amazingly, we found the apartment of my wife's brother available for rent starting July 1st. We spoke to him and he said they would recommend us to the landlord, but they were also selling the kitchen and appliances. They wanted the new tenant to agree to purchase it before they would recommend them. This is technically not legal, but it's not uncommon. We agreed and were happy to be done with the apartment hunting. They wanted €5,000 for the kitchen, which is what they paid when they moved in a few years ago. This is much more than what we would normally pay, but we decided it was worth it to guarantee the place for us. We wouldn't have to pay double rent for a month as the move-in date was perfect, and it's for family. A few weeks later in May, we visited my brother-in-law to see him and the apartment. He told us that the date had changed and they would need the apartment for longer. We asked him how much longer they would need, and he said between 2 weeks and 2 months. We asked him exactly how long so we could organize some other accommodation, and he couldn't tell us. Apparently they had signed their new apartment for September 1st, but were told by the landlord that they might be able to move in on July 1st. That was why they had advertised the apartment for that date. We left it there, but later in June, he told us they might need it even longer. He was hoping that we could just move in whenever they move out and take over the rent so they wouldn't have to pay double rent. My wife was mad at this and told him that he is making his problem our problem. At this time, the landlord of the apartment contacted us and told us we can sign the rental contract starting August 1st. We organized some accommodation for July, including 4 nights in a hotel for €500 and the rest in a nearby unfurnished apartment. Later, my brother-in-law contacted us and told us they would like to move out sometime between mid-July to August 1st. We said that's fine, but they would have to cover the rent for our temporary apartment if there was any overlap because we needed a place to stay, and he was being inflexible. He accepted this as the intermediate rent was cheaper than his current apartment. Now it's late July and we are ready for the move. Earlier in the month, my brother-in-law said we could move our belongings into the apartment on the 30th, which is the last day of our intermediate rental. He is also getting the keys to their new apartment on this date, but their stuff is being moved on the 31st as it is cheaper. We were happy with this arrangement, but this morning, he told us there is not enough room in their apartment for us to move our belongings there. He said we should put it in the attic, 5th floor, and then just move it down on the day we move in, 1st floor. I just about blew my top at this. I feel like we have been very accommodating during this whole ordeal, and he has been difficult. My wife is also very angry. We haven't discussed the kitchen but are considering renegotiating the deal. It was just a verbal agreement at the start of the process and not technically legal. My wife said she will ask for all the receipts and we can look up the current market price before making the offer. I would prefer asking them to remove the kitchen entirely and we would sort ourselves something from IKEA. So are we being unreasonable for thinking of renegotiating the kitchen? Your post was removed because it exceeds the 3,000 character limit, including the title. Please consider resubmitting a shorter post, as you are not allowed to continue your post in the comments or another thread. You will need to post it again since we cannot approve the removed post if you edit it. Remember to read our rules in full before attempting to repost to avoid further violations. Am I the jerk for not inviting my ex or restricting my child's choice of restaurant? Before I start, English isn't my native language. Feel free to draw my attention to any errors or misuse of words. I'm not sure if report card day is the right term. It's the day when you get a paper with the grades of the child. Am I, male 27, wrong for allowing my child, 7 to choose a restaurant where we eat lunch, but not inviting her other parent, non-binary 30? They normally see our children once a week in public with a professional or me looking after them. This week they saw them twice because their father, male, I don't know the age, was in town. He lives in another country. And we met him together so the children could see their granddad. In my family, it is a tradition that the child with the most important report card or certificate gets to choose a restaurant where we eat lunch or dinner. My child will get their first real end-of-the-year report card and chose an Italian restaurant with very large but high-quality pizzas. Both of my children and I normally split one and get full. My ex asked if they can come too, and I said that they can, but that I won't share our pizza with them and won't pay for them. Now they are mad at me because I should go to a place with lower costs or pay so they can attend. I have a little less than double the money they have after taking away rent, electricity, and heat. This covers me and both children for food, daycare, hockey for the younger child, clothing, etc. I feel like I shouldn't restrict the only time a year my child gets to decide the place we are eating at without any compromises. I feel like I shouldn't have to pay my ex anything. Since I'm raising the children, if someone should pay for someone, they should pay us child support. I didn't ask my child because I didn't want to involve my child in conflicts, but my child said, "I'm really looking forward to going to a restaurant with only you and me." What do you all think? You have done nothing wrong. It's not your responsibility to pay for another adult's, let alone your ex's, meal. They should be paying child support, not expecting you to cover their food. The tradition is for the child to choose, so going somewhere else isn't really an option. Am I the jerk for ignoring my friend? This has been on my mind. This guy, now 17 years old, whom I'll call O, texted me, now 18 years old, around 2 years ago. We had a mutual friend. When I was 17, I joined a group for teenagers with social anxiety to help with that. That's where I met most of my friends, and it has been a huge help. The mutual friend also went there and invited O to come as well. He did so, and we started to get closer. From the start, he has been very flirty with me, even before meeting in real life. I have never really been flirted with before, and I have a hard time understanding hints, so I really didn't want to think that he's flirting if he isn't. But I'll give some examples. He used to send me videos on Instagram and posts. One that I remember is imagine being this pretty, and some others that said stuff like, "Are you lost, baby boy?" while also just telling me things like, "I miss you. You don't understand how much I love you." I would point out that's a cute cat, or the sky is so pretty, and he would say like you. He also said that he'll buy me iced coffee. He would be touchy with me and hug me. He made me feel like someone could love me before I could even love myself, and I developed feelings for him rather quickly. But then as time went on, things he did threw me off. After flirting with me, he would randomly talk about a girl he used to like, or a date he went on, or a guy he's talking to. He just gave me mixed signals, and I couldn't understand if he liked me or not. I felt like he was just romanticizing me. He didn't love me for me, he just liked the idea of being in a relationship. But I was naive. For his birthday, I handmade him 6 items using various materials because I love gift giving. Our friend group and I planned a surprise party for him. A few months later, my birthday came. He was invited but lied about not having time to come because he had to study, and he just didn't. But he did make sure to post a story with a friend, which was lovely. He didn't get me anything for my birthday, so I distanced myself, and he didn't try to reach out either. Around 2 weeks ago, I finished work and saw him at the bus station. At first, I didn't even notice him, and I think he noticed me first. He didn't say anything, and I didn't either. We didn't even say hi, and then he got on the bus and left. Nothing else has happened. I feel a bit guilty for just ignoring him, but also he did genuinely confuse and hurt me, so I don't know if I even should have. Do I reach out to him, or do I just keep it as is? I feel mean for not speaking to him. He made me feel special and then crushed that, so I really don't know how I should feel. This guy seems to have been playing with emotions, giving mixed signals and being inconsistent. It's understandable to feel confused and hurt after being led on like that. Ignoring him at the bus station was probably the best move, especially since he didn't respect your feelings in the past. Moving on might be the healthiest option, as it doesn't seem like he has genuine intentions. Am I the jerk for not initiating conversation with my ex? My ex and I decided to keep in touch and stay on good terms after the breakup. The breakup was rough, marking the end of a 2-year relationship. I loved her deeply, but I have found myself naturally moving on from her. She is taking a bit longer. We both have fallen into some bad habits. She has it worse though. She texts me regularly, and I naturally always respond, especially when she vents. I end up checking on her to make sure everything is all right. These conversations typically last hours, while I usually only initiate texts when I am struggling and need a friend to talk to. However, she also initiates texts with me frequently, even if they are just friendly. While I always keep the conversation going and always reply, I never initiate. She told me that sometimes it makes her feel undervalued by me, and as though I care for her less, despite all the times I try to be there for her during her struggles. I text her more than anyone, even family. I never initiate conversation with any of my significant others. It is just the way I walk through life. I do not even regularly text, let alone initiate conversation with friends I literally grew up with. However, I think she may have a point. I never make the conscious effort of initiating and being friendly to her first. I never start conversations while she regularly does, which I understand can make her feel undervalued and less cared about. I am a bit lost. On one hand, I am moving on from her, so it is natural for me not to initiate conversation. Since I am moving on, I start to focus more of my time on myself and start prioritizing my mental well-being. Meaning I probably do care less for her compared to when we were together. But on the other hand, I can understand how I can come off as careless or an asshole for not initiating conversation with her like she does with me. Talking to an ex can be tricky, especially if there are unresolved feelings involved. It's important to assess whether maintaining contact is helping or hindering your ability to move forward. If you truly want to move on, it might be worth considering whether this relationship is holding you back. Remember, where you're going has much more potential than where you've been. Am I the jerk for still taking one of my little brothers to Disney Universal if the other one can't come? A couple of weeks ago, my friends and I threw a party to celebrate graduating college, and I got very drunk. I thought it was a good idea to FaceTime my father and stepmother, to whom I apparently talked gibberish before passing out, which they saw on FaceTime. When I stopped responding, they decided to send an ambulance to my apartment. I do not have memory of this, just waking up in the hospital. I have never been that drunk before, and the whole incident really freaked my stepmother out, for obvious reasons. It has been very embarrassing and not something I will repeat. Next week, I was supposed to be taking my 2 younger brothers, my stepbrother Jake, who is 8 years old, from my father and stepmother, and my half-brother Kevin, who is 10 years old, from my mother, to Orlando. I also plan to take my friend's brother, who is 9 years old. I wanted to take Jake and Kevin because I am moving to the other side of the country. We'll have limited vacation days now, and I just wanted to spend one huge week together with them and make memories. My stepmother and father do not trust me to take Jake at this time, so he cannot go. Truthfully, I cannot blame them for that. They witnessed me so drunk on the phone that they called the ambulance and drove up to the hospital in the middle of the night. They do not trust my judgment right now, and I understand that completely. I know that I will not be drinking on this trip, but I completely understand why my father and stepmother do not want Jake to go. My mother does not share these concerns, but she has always been very easygoing, which is not necessarily a good thing. I told Jake that he could no longer go about a week ago, and he was sad to not go to Orlando. However, 2 days ago, I realized he thought the whole trip was canceled and did not understand I was still taking Kevin. Now he is crushed. He asked me if it was because he is just a stepbrother and not a real brother like Kevin. I explained that that was not the case and that it was my fault, but he does not understand why his parents will not let him go if Kevin's parents will. I do not know how to explain it. I have never seen him so sad and mad. He is completely avoiding me when I go to my father's house. I invited my father to come to Orlando too, so that Jake can also come, but my father cannot get the time off work. I have had some friends tell me the better thing to do would have been to not take either brother, but I do not see how also punishing Kevin would be fair. Plus, I want to make memories and do this with him. Also, Jake has been out of state and been to Orlando and will probably go again. This will be Kevin's first trip, and honestly, maybe only trip unless I take him somewhere again. Am I the asshole for still taking the trip even though one brother cannot go? You did nothing to deserve criticism. You tried your best to include your stepbrother, and it wasn't your call to decide not to bring him. It would be worse if you canceled the trip for your half-brother just because your stepbrother couldn't come. If anything, it's on your dad and stepmother for deciding not to let you bring him, but making you be the one to tell him, effectively making you the bad guy. You shouldn't let it ruin your trip. Would I be the jerk if I removed my sister-in-law and mother-in-law to be from our wedding? Would I be the asshole if I removed my future sister-in-law as a bridesmaid and uninvite her and my partner's mother to our wedding that is happening this year? My partner's mother has been wanting to chat with him alone for a little while, and he went over after work yesterday. She started off by saying, "We don't like how you talk about our dog in front of us. It upsets us." Then she talked about how she feels left out of the wedding and that we're not telling her stuff. She then said that my partner seems unhappy, checking if he is fine at home. Finally, she talked about what she actually wanted to discuss. She and my future sister-in-law are accusing me of calling social services on my future sister-in-law and telling them that she's working while claiming benefits. They have come to this conclusion because apparently only a handful of people know of her OnlyFans account, and the details in the social services report are related to her children, which apparently even fewer people know. So they ruled out everyone but me. My partner was not pleased and stood up for me, but his mother wasn't listening. He came home and told me what his mother had said, but it didn't click until I overheard him on the phone saying to his sister that he would know if I had done it. That hurt to hear, and he saw how upset I was. He ended up going to their houses and confronting them, letting them know they are wrong and that they really upset me. He told his mother, "I'm not expecting to see you unless you have an apology." And to his sister, "I feel like I have no family now." It's not just being accused of calling social services, but they both started to mention other things, like when I've joked in front of them saying, "My partner isn't allowed to shave his beard. I would never stop him if he wanted to shave it off. I just prefer him with one, so I joke about it." I also joke, "My partner doesn't earn much, so I go on holiday by myself," or something along those lines. We try to go on holiday once a year together, but I also have a tradition where I go on holiday with my best friend for our birthdays, which is what the joke was in reference to. They basically asked my partner if everything is okay at home and if I am controlling him. It's nice to now know how they see me through their eyes. I don't think I can forgive them for this. I've been with my partner for over 5 years and felt like I was close to his family, but this has felt so disrespectful and has tarnished the love I had for them. I don't know how I feel about them being at the wedding, let alone having my future sister-in-law by my side as a bridesmaid. My partner has agreed and is right by my side, saying that they're not coming unless we get a massive apology. However, I think it's going to be too little, too late. It sounds like the fiancé is fully in support, so you did the right thing by considering uninviting them. It's crucial to have each other's backs, especially when dealing with family drama. Marriage is all about supporting each other through thick and thin, and it's clear that the fiancé is doing just that. If they can't offer a sincere apology, it might be best to keep them out of the wedding to avoid further issues. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.